Welcome to NYNJPA Weather, your weather source for the Northern Mid-Atlantic. I'm your meteorologist, Stephen DiMartino, and we have a very impressive rainstorm on the way. First, I want to start with the radar as of 11 a.m., and as you can see, we have a very impressive band of moderate to heavy rain developing from central Connecticut back down through southeastern Pennsylvania. Now, this band of rain is basically supported by what we call mid-level frontogenesis. Think of it basically as a stationary front at the middle part of the atmosphere. And what that does is it produces a tremendous amount of lifting and thus the heavy rain. Now, as this storm organizes, this is going to be the first part of this storm. This rain shield will continue to move east-northeast over the next several hours and slowly sink southeast towards the New York City and Philadelphia metropolitan area. Meanwhile, we have another area low pressure developing over the Tennessee River Valley, and that is going to create some pretty heavy rain for tonight into tomorrow morning. Let's take a look at the water vapor satellite picture. As you can see on the water vapor satellite picture, I have circled in yellow the strong disturbance that is developing this powerful rainstorm. The surface low pressure system is currently over West Virginia and northwestern Virginia and will be moving towards the Delmarva Peninsula by this evening and through the New Jersey coastal waters tonight into tomorrow morning. As this low pressure system develops and intensifies, it will draw deep moisture from the Atlantic into the northern mid-Atlantic coast. As a result, moderate to heavy rain will develop and continue to spread throughout the region. Now, I'm expecting the worst portions of this storm to happen after 8 p.m. tonight and continue on through 10 a.m. tomorrow. Thereafter, the rain will start to break up and become more showery in nature and then completely end by tomorrow afternoon. However, between those two time periods, well, it looks like a lot of heavy rain is going to fall, anywhere from a half an inch to an inch and a half over much of the region, with up to 2 inches in some locally heavy downpours, especially with embedded thunderstorms. So clearly we're dealing with a rather impressive heavy rain event. The other thing I just want to point out is that as this upper level low intensifies, look for the rain bands to really start to expand and grow in strength this afternoon and evening. So if you're under one of these heavy rain bands, please take your time while driving. And just, if you need to, pull on the side of the road because the visibility could drop pretty quickly below 2 miles. Now, I'm expecting the impacts of this storm to end by tomorrow evening. And as high pressure builds in over from Canada into the northern mid-Atlantic, I'm expecting clearing skies by tomorrow night. And then for the rest of this week, high pressure is going to be in control with rather pleasant weather conditions. Skies will be scattered clouds to clear, and the winds will be light and variable, and temperatures will be near to slightly above normal. Most locations will be in the mid to upper 60s throughout the rest of this week. So overall, after this rainstorm exits, the rest of the week is going to be pretty nice. And as we move into Saturday morning and Saturday afternoon, temperatures will also warm up into the upper 60s to lower 70s ahead of our next rainstorm, which looks like it could be rather powerful on Saturday night. This is the 500 millibar forecast on Saturday night from the European Model Guidance via the Penn State EWAL. And what I want to show here is that this trough is what we call a negatively tilted trough. What that basically means is that the trough is aligned from southeast to northwest. And what that usually leads to is a strong south to southeasterly wind from the Atlantic into the northern mid-Atlantic. And that can lead to very heavy rainfall for this time of year. It can also lead to a very slow moving low pressure system, and some of the model guidance has this trough closed off as an upper low, which will complicate the forecast even more. When we look at 850 millibars, I want you to keep an eye on something that I think is going to be extremely important going forward. What we have here is the winds at 850 millibars on Saturday night. And the reason why I'm pointing them out is because they range anywhere from 50 to 80 knots. Now, the reason why this is important is because, well, two factors. One, this type of strong jet streak coming in from the Atlantic into basically the northern mid-Atlantic and into the eastern Great Lakes produces a tremendously strong moisture transport from the Atlantic. So we clearly are going to have plenty of moisture in the atmosphere for this upcoming storm. It also creates a significant threat for strong wind gusts on Saturday night into Sunday morning as this low pressure system intensifies and the occluded or cold front approaches from the southwest. So we have two aspects with this storm that we're still not really clear about that could be potential impacts. The first would be the very heavy rainfall. The second would be the potential for severe weather depending on exactly where all these frontal systems and air masses end up with this storm. If the low pressure system is closed off at 500 millibars, that leads to threat for potentially warmer air to work into the northern mid-Atlantic as this whole system intensifies, and that warm unstable air coupled with a strong jet streak and cooler air coming in from the west could support a severe threat that would feature mostly heavy rain and very strong winds. On the flip side, if we're just dealing with a, let's say, stable air mass with a strong jet streak, then again we're looking at very heavy rainfall, not so much severe weather, but we're going to have to keep an eye on the sustained winds and wind gusts. And of course also, if all the winds are coming in from the southeast at all levels of the atmosphere, we'll also have to keep an eye on for coastal flooding. So this storm looks like it could produce some significant impact Saturday night into Sunday. And as you can see at the surface, what's interesting here is that we have high pressure anchored over the Canadian Maritimes and our low pressure system over the Great Lakes. And notice how the pressure lines, those are the isobars, are tightening and packing over the northern mid-Atlantic. That's a clear signal for very strong winds on Saturday night. So it looks like we're dealing with a rather impressive wind and heavy rain event. Now again, if the high pressure system is positioned in this way, that would lead us to believe that more of a cool marine air mass would be in place on Saturday afternoon ahead of this storm, which would then feature more in the way of heavy rain and not so much severe weather. But again, this is a complicated and potentially dangerous storm that we're going to have to keep an eye on over the next several days. By Sunday night through early next week, we start to see some changes in the 500 millibar pattern. Notice again there's no blocking in the Atlantic. Notice the upper level lows around Greenland. That means any storm that comes through is able to quickly move out into the Atlantic. And we have a trough developing in the west. That means a ridge is going to develop over the southeast. And we should be on the warm side of most of these storms that do approach the northern mid-Atlantic. So I do think we're heading towards a pattern that is warmer and will feature less in the way of precipitation, but we're going to have to keep an eye on the base of these troughs, like the one that's sitting over the southwest, because these disturbances will be able to cut off, even though the majority of the jet stream is going to be remaining well to the north of the northern mid-Atlantic. And that, by the way, is why we're having this rainstorm today, because one of these disturbances happened to cut off from the base of the trough, form an upper level low, and here's our heavy rainstorm. Whereas a few days ago on the Malawians, it was just a cold front that moved through and clearing skies in the afternoon by this afternoon. Clearly that is not going to be the case. So we're going to keep an eye on this pattern and the potential for these cutoff lows. But of course, if these cutoff lows do not form, then what we end up with is high pressure over the southeast coast, which means that the northern mid-Atlantic warms up rather nicely into the 70s and 80s, much like what we saw on Monday afternoon. So there is potential for a very nice weather pattern to break out for much of the New York City and Philadelphia metropolitan area, but it strongly depends on the potential for these disturbances not to cut off and to continue to move northeast into northeastern Canada. Thank you for trusting in NYNJPA Weather as your weather source for the northern mid-Atlantic. I'm your meteorologist, Stephen DiMartino. Have an excellent day and stay safe out there.